Hello, namaste, happy Sunday. So this is my first YouTube live stream and I'm offering a chair yoga class today. We're going to focus on gentle movement in a chair. We're going to do a little bit of standing at the end of class. So I always remind people, when you're watching a video or you're coming to a class in person, that you're unique. Your anatomy, your history, all of those things come into play. So if something is just not great for you to do today, leave it out. Add something in. Switch it up a little bit. Sit back and relax a little bit. One thing I do notice is that in yoga, a lot of people want to do 110%. And there's a great benefit to backing off and doing less, especially if we're working with injuries or chronic pain in the body. Maybe if we do a really large movement and there's a lot of clicking and clunking, what if we did a smaller movement? So the three things I'd love you to just keep in mind as you move today is to listen to how your body's feeling. If it's a little achy because you have a bit of arthritis or you're stiff or you have some tight muscles, okay. If it's sharp pain, tingling, numb, back off. If you've had other suggestions or other protocols put in place for an injury, then please use those as you move forward. So let's get started. First thing I wanted to do was address the fascia. And so the connective tissue in the body is your newest organ. It's really considered your sensory organ. And it is everywhere. It connects, it's all around your organs, it's around your joints, it's kind of insidious in the body. It's really important to address this if we're working with tight muscles or injuries. So we're going to do a lot of fascial work today. One great thing to do with fascia is foot rolling. And a lot of you who have come to my classes, you know I'm really, really keen on working on the foot. And so I do want to offer up a little footwork today. And so this is a good opportunity in your space that you're in. And this might be that you watch if you're like, oh, I don't have anything available. Maybe you watch this and then you later on go and find something that you can use. I'm going to show you a couple different things that you could use. And this is definitely not an exhaustive list. I've got a stick, otherwise known as a dowel. And I'm going to grab a couple other things here out of my little fascia bag. And I've got, so a lot of people will see these, the spiky ball, or it could be your dog's toy, it could be a tennis ball. I've got a squash ball, which is lovely. It's really nice for working on the upper body. This is a cork ball and this is a spiky ball. And you could also use a frozen water bottle or even a stainless steel or a hard plastic water bottle, something that you could put under your foot, a rolling pin if you decide to give up baking. So any of those things work. And I'm going to use the dowel. So let's do one foot at a time because I don't know what you have at home. I'm going to use the dowel on one foot. And we're just going to do something really gentle to start us, ease us into the practice today. And I'm just going to give you a couple tips on why this is so important. If there's one thing that you can kind of take away from today, it might be to bring in a little bit of fascia work. So I'm just going to start with rolling it under my foot. So if you had a foot injury, you might be going really, really light. There might be spots in your foot that you want to avoid putting any pressure at all. And again, this might not work for you today for whatever reason. So you can feel free to leave this part out or go rummage in your cupboards for something. All right, so I'm just rolling through the bottom of the foot. The connective tissue that starts in the bottom of your foot is moving all the way up the back body. It's like a sheath. It's called your superficial back line. Over the crown of the head, this tissue attaches under your eyebrows. So we can start to lengthen that whole back line, which for most people gets tight. So tight calf, Achilles, hamstrings, even tension headaches can be caused by this tight back line. So working on the bottom of the foot is going to start to help work on that whole back line of the body. So the hamstrings. The other thing this is really helpful with is just keeping the foot movable and malleable. And so when I talk about fascia, the one thing I want to mention to people is that fascia likes movement and a little bit of compression. Think of compression as massage. very gentle massage. You know, if you had a sore shoulder, you might do a little massage. It might feel good, right? So we're going to get the fascia moving and hydrated. And it's really meant to be this very hydrated sheath in the body that moves and slides. So if we've had an injury, goes from movable and flexible. It gets a little more tight, stiff, maybe dehydrated with lack of movement or just aging in general. So when we add movement, we add hydration to that protective sheath in the body. It might relax a little bit more, and then we might start to feel a little more ease in movement or a little more ease in our physical discomfort. So as I roll through the foot, I'm going to just see if there's a spot that I could stop. Maybe it's in the arch, maybe it's somewhere else. And if it's comfortable and you're feeling like your foot can take it, you might want to go further. To go further, I'm going to put my hands on my thighs. I'm going to take a big breath. Big exhale. I might lean a little forward. Noticing that as I lean forward, there's more pressure in my foot right now. Coming up, I'm going to do that 2 more times. Big sigh. Leaning forward, just gentle pressure into the foot. And coming up, good. 1 more. Good. This is just a really kind of quick version we're doing today, just to kind of get into the feet. And then the outer edge of the foot you might be curious about, and the inner edge of the foot, you might go all the way up and down. And so when you are ready, we'll move on over to the other side. We're doing a fairly short version of this today, but you know, you could do this every day, maybe 5 minutes a foot. It can be done standing, but I always suggest people start seated because the fascia in the foot can be really tight and sensitive because we wear a lot of shoes. We wear protective shoes. They create a lot of stability for our foot, which is great. But that means that the fascia in the foot is not getting a lot of movement. So that can cause dehydration in the fascial layers in the foot. And we want to kind of hydrate those tissues to keep the foot moving. Your balance starts in your feet. And having movable, flexible fascia will help with that. And we'll explore that from standing at the end of class. So I'm going to start with rolling through the foot. This is also great for circulation. I always notice that after I've done 1 foot and I look at my feet, they're slightly different colors pretty quickly. It's kind of different in each body. So you're just rolling through the dowel, or it could be a tennis ball. So if you're using a ball, let's see, it could be anything. It could be the same idea. Just kind of rolling. So you can get creative. Frozen water bottles are great if you have really painful feet or in the hot summer. A great way to cool down the feet. Also helps with inflammation. So as we move through the foot here, let's find a spot that you might be able to sit and rest the dowel and add a little pressure. So I'm going to take a big breath. Exhale, hinging forward from the hip crease a little bit. Just noticing if that puts a little extra pressure in the foot. And we'll try that 2 more times. Take a big breath. Exhaling forward. Good. 1 more if you can. That's it. Very good. Rolling through the foot. There are lots of tools that you can use. So you might even have something different. I've seen some wooden boards that have rollers on them that you can use. Yeah, tennis balls again work really great. So I'm rolling through the foot. Yes. Okay. Wonderful. And these dowels are really easy to get made at the hardware store. I would say maybe $3 to $5. So a really nice, inexpensive tool would be a dowel. So I'm going to put that aside now. We've warmed up the fascia in the foot. We'll do a little bit of a warm up for the lower body. So we're really going to go through the body today, sort of head to toe. Gentle movement to hydrate those connective tissues in the body, and just explore movement. And just see how it is for you today. Always backing off if you feel it's too much or you're feeling strained, you feel the body tensing up. I want you to back off a little bit. So I'm going to sit all the way back in the chair for this one, just so that I can take one leg out and do some circles. And it doesn't have to be lifted high. It doesn't have to be right out in front of you. It could be just barely off the floor, just a little bit of movement. So maybe some circles in one direction, some circles in the other direction. A little pointing, flexing, if that's all right with you. That's That's it. Good. And we'll try the other foot when you're ready. So I'm going to just take a moment. There might be some clicky clunky bits. It's pretty common. Just know that any clicky bits in the body, if there isn't a pain associated with it, it's okay, but maybe back off if you're feeling a discomfort around some of those clicky clunky bits. Oh, got a click in my ankle. Good. Pointing, flexing. Very good. Okay. Wonderful. So I'm going to sit back in the chair. So we're going to kind of go head to toe today with some warm-ups for the joints, and then we're going to go into the spine itself and working with the spinal movements. So now we're going to address the knee. So if I sit back in the chair and I just try to sit up tall, you could even imagine you had a book on your head. That might be a good cue to sit up tall. And I'm going to see if extending my leg out in front of me feels manageable. Now, if fully extending the leg causes you back pain, do less. If it's causing you knee pain, do less. That could mean that your range of motion is here. It could mean that it's full range of motion. Okay? So try that maybe 3 or 4 more times, just how that feels to extend the leg and bend the leg. Good. So try the other leg. And if you've had any injury, could be really different sensation on one leg to the other. If you had an injury where you get to here and you're okay and you get a little further and the body kind of tenses up, then you could say, okay, my range of motion on my right leg is that big, it's small. Really want you to find some ease in your movements today. And there's some important reasons why. One main reason that we're working with this today, if I talk about that fascia, and if you're curious about the word, it's spelled F-A-S-C-I-A. I encourage you to Google it if you're bored. But fascia is a protective layer, as I kind of mentioned. It's kind of everywhere. But if you go into pain or the body senses that you've gone too deep too soon, fascia, which is like a spider web, it's like a netting in the body, but its job is to protect you. And so at any time, if the body perceives something that's in danger or it's feeling pain, it's feeling too deep, first instinct of the fascia is to go from movable and flexible to tight. And so we're trying to keep that fascia relaxed. A great analogy would be if somebody was giving you a little neck massage and it felt great, but then they went in a little too deep and you feel your body tense up, right? We're trying to back off and keep ourselves from tensing up. So that applies to all body parts. So with the knee, if you're going here and that's manageable, great. Okay, good. All right, so now we're going to add in some shoulder movements and I'm going to see if we can add in a little brain activity. So I'm going to start with my hands on my knees. I'm going to imagine like I'm holding a box or a block. So if I had a block, it might be like so. We're not going to use the block yet. This might be something that we use later. If you don't have one, don't worry. I'm going to talk you through what you could do in lieu of. I just want you to imagine you're holding something. Okay, just putting your hands on your knees. First thing we're going to do is take one arm and just float it in front of you and down. And try the other arm. So the shoulder is really one of the most movable joints in the body. And just see, go a little higher with the next arm. I want you to find a range of motion with the arm that is manageable for you. So if it's all the way up, great. If it's not, that's fine. Could be halfway. Could be if there was a frozen shoulder or an injury that you're healing, that you've got to modify your movements. That's super important that you listen to your body first. Okay, so generally speaking, the shoulder, depending on the hand position, will turn the shoulder in the socket and change the sensations. So this one gives the shoulder a little bit more room when the palms face each other. And so now let's see if we can add a leg. So we're going to do opposite arm, opposite leg. So I'm going to bring my one leg out in front and the opposite arm, whether it's just in front of you or it's all the way up. And we're going to continue on and see if we can add some breathing. So you can add a breath. I'm going to encourage you to just breathe in a comfortable, easeful manner. You could decide to link your breathing and movement, which might mean inhaling as the leg and the arm extend. And exhale as they relax. Good. Let's do one more on either side. Inhale. Good. Last one. Very good. All right. Okay. So we're going to scoot a little forward in the chair. Now we're all in different chairs and we all have different situations with what kind of chair we're in and how our comfort is. But for me today, I'm going to sit a little bit at the edge of the chair. So if I was to turn my chair to the side, I'll just show you. I might do this a little bit through the class just so you see the difference. Now, I started out sitting way back in the chair, but now I'm going to kind of sit where I'm still comfortable, but there's room behind me. Now, sitting up tall in this way is great for creating some of those core strength around the spine and the multifidus that run up and down the spine. They really create some stability around the spine. But if you're not used to sitting at the front of the chair like this, you might sense that about 3 to 5 minutes in that you're like, or you want to slump back in the chair. So my encouragement to you, if it's feeling all right, is to stay at the front of the chair. And if you're starting to sense the body kind of doing this, there's a couple things I want you to think about. One is you could take a blanket or something. So I'm going to show you a couple different options. It could be like a little pillow or a block or blanket. All right, so it could be a block or something like that. Sometimes what I encourage people to do is put something on their chair, okay, having a little bit of an edge. So that means that if I sit on this, it's going to just very slightly tilt my pelvis forward. It might make it a little easier to stay here and sit like this. It also might be nice if you're in a wood chair like I am that doesn't have any cushion, that might not be so comfortable on the sit bones. So that's an option, is to put something under the sit bones, but just notice that it's not right at the edge of the chair. And so that means that as I'm sitting on this blanket, could be a little pillow, it gently tilts the pelvis a little bit forward. And this is a really helpful tool because what tends to happen is that we sit back in chairs and the pelvis tucks under. And that can be really problematic for breathing and other things. So this might be a helpful tip for you. And then I'd like to go into a movement that's really nice that you can do in between any of the movements we do today as a release for your lower back and a little recruiting for your deep core. So I'm going to do it sideways and then I'll come and turn the chair. So I'm going to place my hands on my thighs. Your thigh bone, your femur bone, is the biggest, strongest bone in your body. So you can press into it with the palms of your hands, but just avoid the knee joint. Okay, so somewhere in the mid-thigh, kind of pressing gently in with your heel of your hands here. Yeah, sitting up nice and tall. So this movement is coming right from my hip crease. Okay, so I'm going to sit up tall. I'm gently hinging, not very far forward. I'm pressing gently into my thigh bones. And then I might lift the heels here. Now, as I lift the heels, I might be able to go a little further. And now I'm feeling that stretch in my back. You might be seeing my mic pack there. But so as I lean forward, this is the stretch for your lower back. Okay, so my heels are lifted if you can do that. And then as you press into the thighs and slowly come up to seated, yeah, I'm going to lean back a little bit. I'm going to tuck my chin into my chest a little and maybe the toes lift. So I've named this the rocking chair for obvious reasons. You can think of hinging forward, the heels lift, you got a big back stretch, coming up, leaning back. Encourage the chin to move towards your chest. Otherwise, this happens. It's really hard on the neck. And you don't have to go back too far. If you go back too far and you're shorter, you might end up sort of airborne there. So it might be a small movement. It might be that your rocking chair, this is the movement. Really helpful way to get the pelvis moving. And we know this helps with back pain and just keeping that lower back from stiffening up. So rocking chair, in a chair. And I'm going to encourage you to do that whenever you'd like in the practice. Yes, good. Wonderful. Now, if you want to add the breathing, I'm going to turn back to forwards. See you. Okay. If you'd like to try, let's try a few times. Same movement. If you'd like, you could add the breath sequence. Now, you can breathe in the nose, out the mouth. You can breathe in the nose, out the nose, or in any other way that's comfortable for you. There are hundreds of breathing practices and exercises. I do encourage people to breathe in the nose if it's available to you. Okay, you filter the air, get a little more oxygen, and it does have a stimulation in the brain for cognition and memory when we work with nasal breathing. But for whatever reason, if that's not available to you, you are an expert. You've been breathing in and out your whole life. So as long as you're feeling your breathing and you're not holding your breath, you're good. But if you'd like to try, let's try 3 with the breath. I will suggest a breathing sequence similar to mine, but you might be faster or slower than my cue. So I'm going to take a breath in, sit up tall, exhale forward. You can exhale through the mouth or nose. Inhale up, exhale back, inhale up, exhale forward, inhale up, exhale back. Good. I'm going to try 2 more. Inhale up, exhale forward, inhale up, exhale back. Good. Last time. Inhale up, exhale forward. We're just going to come to center after coming forward. So when you're ready, as you come up to your first position, very good. So it's really movement from the hip and the pelvis moving. The pelvis kind of tilts forward and back there. So the spine really didn't move quite much in that movement. But now we're going to work specifically with the spine. So cat-cow, it's the oldest recorded yoga movement. It's really the flexion and extension of the spine. And this is going to be different for everybody. So I'm going to show you from the side so you can see what that looks like, and then we'll come back to center. So I'm going to turn my chair. Okay. All right, so you might notice that if I'm sitting and I sit up really tall, I'm going to use my hands as a little bit of a guide. They're just going to be sliding towards the knees, towards my body. So that's the movement of the arms, okay? So all I'm going to do is think of taking a big breath in and sitting up as tall as I can. For some people, it could be that you look up a little. Most important is that you keep the back of the neck long. So I want you at all costs to avoid overextending your neck. There's just no benefit to that at all. So it could be that the chin's up a little. It could be that you're just looking straight ahead. So either a little bit up or straight ahead. Please avoid that overextension of the neck. There's just no great benefits to that. So I'm going to sit up tall, hands slide towards the hips. Sitting up tall, big breath. This is the extension of your spine. Now, on the flexion of the spine, the hands are going to slide towards your knees, and I want you to lean your upper back towards the back of your chair, chin towards your chest. So as I stretch the arms towards my knees, I'm feeling a stretch in here, my upper back and the chest. Take a breath, coming up. Exhale, coming into that rounded spine, kind of like you're making a big letter C. I'm going to encourage you to continue inhaling as you extend and sit up tall. Exhale as you slide the hands towards the knees, rounding the spine, chin to chest. If you have a spinal injury, you could make this much smaller. It might look like this. Extension, flexion, extension. You're still moving the whole spine. And so small movements are very beneficial. Yeah? Good. So try a couple more. Inhale as you sit up tall. Exhale as you round the spine. Yeah, good. Let's try a couple more. Inhale tall. Exhale rounding. Inhale sitting up tall. Exhale rounding. Good. Let's just come back to seated now when you're ready. Little shoulder rolls. Good. So I'm going to address the shoulders now, and then we'll return to the last 2 spinal movements a little bit. So with the shoulder, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's a complicated little joint. It moves in a whole lot of different ways, and often, very commonly, we have injuries to the shoulder. So be mindful, small movements. So the first thing we're going to do is just explore backwards rotation or backwards circles with the shoulders. So I'm going to let the shoulders come up towards my ears, back towards the chair behind me, down towards my sit bones, and around. Just like that. Up, back, down. Now, if I do my full range of motion, I get a good old clunk in my shoulder. Click, click, clunk. Totally fine. But if I was trying to access that connective tissue and maybe get a little more ease in this movement, if I did a smaller movement, things are quieter now. So I encourage you maybe even to close your eyes. Really take your awareness into the shoulder, going up, back, down, forward. Make it even smaller. Could be that you're starting with movements that are so small. And that might be the opportunity for that fascia to relax, to hydrate a little bit. Could be that after a few minutes you feel like you can do a bigger movement. Okay, good. Now we're going to do a tension release exercise. There's 2 ways to do this. So tension, I'm going to shrug the shoulders up, big breath in. On the exhale, I'm going to let the shoulders relax down. I'm going to exhale through the mouth. Like a sigh. Sighs were wonderful for releasing held tension in the body. So I'm going to try 2 more like that. One more. Good. So very common, I see people do that quickly. Totally fine. Depending on the person, depending on the body. So if you were to do that with a quick drop of the shoulders, it's like this. They kind of just drop. I kind of like the slow version myself, but everybody's different. Yeah, so try 1 more. Let them just drop or let them slide slowly down. Very good. And then 1 little shoulder roll up, back and down. Bring the elbows close, palms up. Good. So this position here, elbows close, palms up, it really quickly puts your shoulders in their rightful place. The scapula really directs the shoulder position. The scapula is just the shoulder blade. So if I showed you from the side, my elbows are close, palms up, close here. The shoulder blade is sliding down and under. So it's called scapular stabilization. And so notice too, if I was to bring my hands to my thighs here, you can try it with me, you've got pretty good posture. So it's a really good quick way to correct upper back posture. This is what happens thanks to gravity and pretty much everything in our daily life, computers, driving, books, reading, everything we do, forward flexion. So what happens after you may notice that all of a sudden the body starts doing this. Once the upper body's rolling forward, what's happened to the shoulder blade? It is winging a little bit away from the torso. So if I notice this sort of slouch position, I'm trying to encourage a little bit of a better shoulder and posture position. I might just sit up tall, roll the shoulders up, back, down, elbows close, palms up. I just reprinted that postural awareness. So that's a nice option. So now from here, we're going to work with warming up the shoulder and moving the shoulder mindfully. So palms facing up, elbows are close. This is called scapular stabilization. And we're just going to do a little external rotation of the shoulder. So when you're doing this movement, if you have had a rotator cuff issue or any kind of shoulder issue, you may notice you only get so far on one side. Maybe one side goes further and you're like, this arm only goes that far. Might be some restrictions, might be some scar tissue, might be something going on there. We're not trying to force movement. We're just trying to explore. Oh, interesting. That's it. So external rotation here is going to encourage this area of the shoulder to open, which can help with our posture as well. That's it. Very good. Good. Wonderful. Once the arms are out to the sides where they can go comfortably, I'm going to extend the arms out. We're going to explore your shoulder a little more. So I'm going to curl my fingers in and then the thumbs, and I'm going to curl the hand into the shoulder, and I'm going to see where the elbows can go comfortably. This is going to be different for everybody. Could be much less than this for you. Okay? That's it. And just see wherever you get to, see if you can unfurl the arms. Yeah. Curling in the fingers, curling in the thumbs, curling the hand into the shoulders. Elbows slowly lower down to a comfortable position, and they unfurl. That's it. All right, so one more little movement here to activate some muscles in the shoulders. So we're going to curl the fingers in, curl the hand in, hand into the shoulder, and we're just going to bring the arms up to the sides. Could be less so. Could be one's up, one's down. And I'm just going to invite in some tiny circles. Try the other direction. Good. Okay, so this one will be nice for the back of the neck, and it kind of activates some of those muscles in the back body to help with posture. So once the arms are out to the sides here, Okay, I'm going to gently bring my elbows towards each other. As I do that, I'm going to draw my chin into my chest. So I'm feeling a bit of a stretch in my neck. And then I'm going to open the elbows out to the sides. See if I can pull them back a little bit. Again, be mindful of your shoulder. It might only want to go this far. Gentle, gentle movements. So chin to chest, elbows touch or come towards each other. And then elbows go towards the back of your chair as you sit up tall, looking forward. One more. Very good. That's it. Good. When you're ready from here, we'll extend the arms out. We'll do this again a little bit later. We're going to stretch some back muscles and give yourself a hug. So one arm on top, sitting up nice and tall. Let's do that bit of the rocking chair. So you can take a big breath, hinging forward from the hip crease. Maybe the heels lift. Maybe the chin tucks into the chest a little bit. And then as you come up, whichever arm is on top, we'll switch. So big breath. Exhale, the other arm is on top. Big bear hug for yourself, sitting up tall. And exhale forward. Heels might lift. This will add a little extra stretch in your lower back. Chin might come into your chest or might be looking just straight down at the floor. One more breath. Good. And then coming up when you're ready. Very good. Lovely. Little shoulder rolls. Good. So let's do a little bit of work now for your wrists and the hands, and also all the muscles that ligaments that roll all the way up into the shoulder. So we're going to start with just kind of painting the wall with your hands. So I want you to imagine fingers are down on the way up, fingers are up on the way down, and then add the breathing if you choose. Inhaling up, exhaling down. If the fingers are up and you've got tight stuff happening in the hand, you're probably going to feel it. And yeah, just kind of notice what kind of sensations are coming up in the hands for you. Up and down. Could be slightly different. Could be really small. It could be like this. Very good. Wonderful. And then we'll take the fingertips together. Just the fingertips. Elbows are out to the side a little bit. And just see if you can allow the fingers to move down towards your legs and then up towards the ceiling and then maybe toward your body. So what's interesting in this movement is every part of your arm is moving. Wrist, forearm. You can even see my biceps doing some work there. Look at that. You can even see the tricep has to work when I do this movement. This is sort of the wrist action that we do when we open up jars. So this is a really good one for that. Very good. That's it. 2 and 1. Very good. Once the elbows come in, you can just shake out the hands. So let's just talk a little bit more about the wrist. So there's 3 movements that I really like to offer students who have wrist, neck, carpal tunnel, anything like that, or do a lot of computer work and get tension in the hands. And I didn't name these, but they really work, and I use them a lot. So the first one is called puppy paws. Now, if you've ever held a dog's leg and done this, you notice that they just let their paws be floppy. And if you've got a lot of tension there, it might not be very floppy. I just want you to see if your hands can just be a little floppy here. That's it. And then the reverse pause could be turning the palms upside down and doing a little bit of the reverse pause here. Good. And then the next one, I don't know who named it. I think it's kind of funny. I didn't name it. Is flicking the goo. Like you had something on your finger that you couldn't quite get off. Okay. You might choose to flick the goo and let the hands kind of float up. And then we'll do the wave on the way down. We'll try that one more time. Flicking the goo, just flicking off anything from your fingers. Flicking, flicking. And then the little wave on the way down. Very good. Wonderful. Good. As the arms come out, back out to the sides here, I'm going to take a moment. Now, your hand position is going to determine your shoulder position. So I want to talk about that a little bit today. So let's just take the hands out, palms facing forward. They could be closer to your body if that's more comfortable. So if I let my hands start rolling in and behind me, my whole shoulder just internally rotated, my elbow moved, my wrist, so everything moves together. Now, if I rotate the hand the other way, think of my thumbs going towards the wall behind me. My chest opens, this part of the shoulder moves back. It's pretty amazing. Good. So we're going to do a little stretch from this one, but just take a moment to notice the shoulder rolling in, the shoulder rolling back. That's it. Last one. Good. We're going to do a little stretch here for some of those back muscles. So we are going to roll the hands around so that the palms are facing behind you. And then I'm going to see if I can bring the back of my hands together. You can let your chin come into your chest here. Take a big breath. Good. And then when you're ready, I'm going to look up, bring the arms up, and I'm going to imagine I'm swimming. So think breaststroke. I'm going to scoop with the arms, bring them in, palms are up. Just try that a few times. Scooping like you're swimming. That's it. One more. Yeah, very good. Wonderful. We'll bring the hands back to the heart center. All right, next two movements are going to help open up the shoulder blades a little bit and again the inner chest area. So I'm going to do two movements. If you choose, you can add in the breathing sequence or just breathe comfortably on your own whenever you decide you need a breath. So I'm going to inhale, the arms go up a bit and down. And then the next movement is opening and closing. So I'm going to do that two more times. I'm going to inhale, the arms float up, elbows kind of gather a little bit. Exhale down. Inhale, arms open. Exhale, they close. You could even draw your chin into your chest if you want a little bit of a neck stretch there. Inhale, the arms up. Exhale, they come down. Inhale, they open. Exhale, they close. Good. Very good. When you're ready, we can add the hands. Come back to your lap. Okay. So we've done a little bit of shoulder work, wrist work, arm work. We're going to go return to the spine. So we started off with cat-cow, which was the extension of the spine, sitting up really tall. And then the flexion of the spine when we kind of resemble the letter C. So that rounded spine. So now we're going to work with twists. And we're going to start with a really gentle twist today. I want you to keep in mind that your spine, it likes movement, but it doesn't like to be pushed. So often when I say twist, people in their minds will conjure up some sort of very twisted position, which yes, they're out there. But for our purposes, we're just trying to ease the muscles and the fascia around the spine. No force at all. So if I started with my hands on my knees and I sit up tall, sitting up tall, imagine that there's a big long back of the neck. Maybe you have a book on your head, that kind of imaginary book, right? So you sit up tall. Yeah. So I'm going to choose one hand. It's the same idea as the hands are going to slide up and down the legs, but one at a time. So you're going to choose one hand, slide it towards your hip, and let your shoulder pull back. Look over that shoulder. Inhale to center. Exhale, sliding the other hand. Let the head follow you in your twist. Inhale to center. That's it. So we're exhaling to turn, inhaling to center. Maybe closing your eyes. Try that two more times on either side. That's it. So when I close my eyes, I can really sense the inner body a little more. I can maybe take my mind's eye into the spine, noticing, am I going too far? Should I back off a little bit? Very good. And then coming back to your first position. Okay, so far we've done flexion, extension, and twisting. There's only one other way your spine moves, and that's side bending. There's a few different ways to do this. We're going to do two different kinds. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to widen my feet. I have a bit of a V position with my feet. That might mean you have to adjust where you're sitting on your chair so you don't feel like you're going to slide out of the chair. I'm still a little bit forward, but I did sit back a little bit. So I got a bit of a V. I'm going to sit up tall. So this side bend is going to be stretching the side body, and I named this the John Wayne stretch. You'll figure it out. So we're going to take one arm, okay, my forearm. I'm going to sit up tall, lean over towards that one leg, and I'm going to see if my forearm can rest on the thigh. This might be too much. If this is the case, maybe it's the hand. Maybe I'm only coming over this much instead of this much. But you can think of John Wayne here, hanging out, got a little side bend happening. Now we're going to add the arm. If you had an injured shoulder, you might just stay here and breathe and really focus on that little bit of stretch in the side body. Or your arm can come up, palm is going to face the floor here. And I might follow the arm with my eyes and my head as it slices in front of me and moves over towards the other knee. So now I'm getting quite a deep stretch on that side. Modify the range of motion to suit your comfort. That is the most important. I'm going to try it one more time. Floating the arm around. Yeah, and then coming back. Good. There is another option, and this is really dependent on your shoulder, which would be reaching up and over. If you have a shoulder injury, that's likely a no-go today. And that's okay, you don't have to do it. So the up and over is one option. The slicing is a little more friendly for the shoulder in front. And then coming down. Little shoulder rolls in between. We'll do the other side. So sitting up tall, I'm going to lean over to the other side, just see if I can find a way to hang out here, feeling that little bit of a side stretch. Bring the arm up, palm is facing down. I'm going to attempt to follow, I like to follow the hand with my head and my eyes a little bit here. Good. So if that felt good and your shoulder's like, oh, this feels all right, then just explore for a moment, how does it feel to take the arm up and over? It might feel good and it might not. Good. Maybe you continue to do the slicing arm. That's it. Very good. Arm comes down, come up, little shoulder roll. Okay. So the next movement is going to sort of prepare us for working with our balance a little bit. And we're going to do that from seated first, and then we are going to do a little bit of that standing today later. If it's the case that you're just not sure about doing balance work, you could leave it out. You could observe it today and leave it out for later, or pick the things that you feel comfortable doing and leave the rest for later, or just leave it out for good. Finding what works for you is the most important, as I continually mention. So if I sit in my chair, I want you to notice your sit bones, okay? So if I sit up tall, I feel like I'm sitting a little bit on the front of the sit bones. That's what the blanket might also provide you. This is really helpful for the diaphragm, the pelvic floor, because if we sit back in chairs and the pelvis is tucked under, it makes it really hard to use the diaphragm to breathe. And if the diaphragm isn't getting that opportunity to move, then there might be some restriction in the pelvic floor as well. So if I sit up tall, I want you to just kind of notice where you're sitting. Where's the weight on your sit bones? And then take a moment to just slump in your chair. Just slouch. And just try that a couple times. I just want you to notice, do you sense your body weight is in a slightly different place? So when I'm sitting up tall, I sense that I'm sitting a little bit on the front edges of the sit bones. And when I slouch, I'm sitting at the back of my sit bones, kind of. Okay, just want you to notice that. That's it. Okay. So then see if you can come back to that sitting tall, slightly on the front of the sitting bones. That might be aided with your blanket. All right, or could be a towel. All right. So from this position, now I would like to explore the weight shifting from one sit bone to the other. So just see if you can shift your weight onto one sit bone. And then how does it feel to be more even centered? And then the other sit bone. Just shifting your body weight a little bit over to one side. Back to center. Good. Now let's see if we can go all the way around. So shifting your body weight to one side, maybe then coming forward, over to the other side, back, over to the other, and now we're doing some circular motions. So really this is coming from me shifting my body weight from one sit bone to the side, a little bit to the front, and to the other sit bone, to the back, to the side, around. And I'm going to try the other direction a couple times, shifting the other way and back. And this might not be obvious to people as a balance exercise, but it will help to start to cultivate that awareness of weight shifting. And our weight shifting is really a big part of balance. That's it. Okay, so we'll come back to center. And this next movement incorporates a little balance and a little side bend. So I'm going to take one hand and I'm going to hold on to my chair. So wherever that is, the leg of the chair, the arm of the chair, really important to hold on to something on the chair so you're not going to fall out of the chair, because we're going to lean to that side. So then the other arm is going to come up. Okay, I'm going to turn and look at the hand. I'm going to lean, reaching. I always imagine I'm reaching for the parking button. You know, and you can't reach the button, then you have to park the car, open the door. But from here, I notice that my opposite sit bone is lifted. My body weight is more on this side of the body. I'm going to follow the arm. If your arm is, or your shoulder allows, we can follow it up. And now my sit bones are back at center. I'm going to try that one more time. Just the weight shifting. Shifting the weight, reaching and leaning. Perhaps the arm goes up. You can leave out that arm movement if you choose. Now we could add a side bend. So I'm going to reach and lean. Good. Noticing how as I come back to here, now I'm at center, and I'm going to try to root both sit bones as I tilt a little bit over to the side. So right now, both sit bones are evenly weighted in my seat. And then that arm is going to come down and hold the chair. The other arm is going to extend. I'm going to reach and lean for the button that I can't reach, and then follow the arm up. I'm going to try that one more time like that. Reaching, leaning, up. Yeah. Last one. I'm going to reach. This time we'll add the side bend. So this time as you come back to center, see if you can tilt a little over to the other side. That's it. And then all the way down. Very good. Good. Some little movements in the shoulders. Very good. Okay. Wonderful. So I'd like to offer a little bit of work today with sit to stand and a few little things for standing practice. If this is just not for you today, you might put it on pause, or, you know, even little bits, even 10-minute little yoga breaks of just movement or a little bit of breathing awareness can be hugely helpful. So often if people get an exercise video or some guidance from someone, we often think, oh, if I can't do the whole thing, it's not worth it. It's just not the case. Whatever you can do with comfort is what I encourage you to do today. So I want to talk about getting out of a chair. It's one of those things like breathing that's automatic for a lot of us. We've been doing it every day of our lives, well, most of our lives. We don't really think about the technique that's involved. There are ways to make it easier, sort of ergonomically easier. However, that said, we all have different ailments in the body, and this might not be the preferred way that you get up. That's fine too. So I'm just going to share some interesting insights on getting out of a chair. Okay, so I'm going to turn my chair sideways. You don't have to. I'm just doing this for your visual. So one thing to think of is that if you're sitting all the way back in a chair and you're trying to get out of the chair, you have a lot more real estate that you're going to have to clear to get out of the chair. So my encouragement to you before you get out of any chair is to see if you can use your sit bones to scoot a little bit to the edge. Not right to the edge, but just enough. Now, the other thing that I would like you to consider is if you have your knee over your ankle for exercise, great. Really helpful for our practice. However, if I was to get out of a chair with my knee over my ankle like this, you can already see what's going to happen. If I try to get out of the chair, my feet are going to go that way, right? It's not going to be a successful attempt. So there is a little rhyme that someone shared with me at one time that I find really helpful to share with people. And it's knees over toes, nose over knees. Okay, so I'm going to explain that in a minute. So the first thing is knees over toes. So to get out of a chair, we need leverage. We need our heels under us. So I'm going to see how far back I can bring my feet towards the chair comfortably with my heels still being on the ground. If my feet come back too close and my heels aren't on the ground, this can be problematic because now I'm using the ball of my foot to get up out of a chair. That puts more pressure on your knees. We want to use your heels, which are going to activate your back side and the back body. So I'm going to only go as far back as I can with my heels still touching the ground. If you've had a knee replacement or a knee injury, you might notice that one knee goes back or one foot goes back further comfortably and one doesn't. That might mean that you're slightly staggered with the foot position. That's also fine. But I'm going to just see how far I can go back. I still have my heels on the ground. It's the heels I want you to think of that are going to give you leverage. So before we go any further, I want you to just, I'm going to lift my toes just to exaggerate this. Just want you to press into your heels. And you'll notice if you just press into your heels, like press down, that you almost have like an ejection button. There's something, it's almost like a spring. There's a real connection between the heel and the tailbone. So as I press into the heels, the bum wants to start lifting, but it's just not quite enough. All my body weight is still centered on the chair, which means I'd have to have a lot of leg strength in order to stay in this position and get myself out of a chair. So we've got knees over toes. You see how that is? My knee is over my toes rather than knee over ankle, which is better for exercise, but not for getting out of a chair. It's just not easy, not helpful. So knee over toe, that's the first part. Now let's explore. If I sit up tall and I'm sitting in this position, notice the weight in your feet right now and the weight in your sit bones. Most of your body right now, body weight is in your sit bones. I just want you to see how it would feel. Your hands can be on your thighs or they could just be at the sides of your body. Just hinging at the hip. I just want you to see if you were to hinge forward, how far do you go before you feel there's more weight in your feet? So I get to about here and I can feel that there's more weight in my feet now. And that's when you're going to launch yourself. You're going to push off from the seat. So the hands can be on your thighs. Avoid the knees. You can press into your thighs. They can help you get out of a chair for sure. You could even be using the sides of a chair or the edges of the chair or the arms of a chair. So there are more options with the arms. Sometimes people will take their arms out in front of them or cross them over if they're working on a little bit more of an advanced sit to stand. So it's really dependent on what's going on for you today. So we're going to try it 5 times. You could do 1, you could do 5, you could do 10. So if I sit up here, I'm going to give you all different arm options. Okay. So the first arm option would be crossing the arms over. I'm going to hinge forward. And as soon as I feel more body weight in my heels, I'm going to press into the heels and up I come. Okay. All right. Now let's talk about getting back in a chair. This is really important too. If I was to just from this position, just bend my knees and go straight down. It's really hard on my knees. I feel a real tightness in my shins and I barely made it to the chair. So we don't want to barely make the chair. We want to make sure we get the chair. So from standing, okay, before we go back to the chair, all right, first, always a good practice to make sure the chair is there. So a little shoulder check, making sure the chair is in the right place. You want it. A little bend in the knees softens the hip crease. Think of hinging at the hip a little bit. Shift your weight into your heels and imagine sticking your bum way back behind you. Noticing that it had lots of space there. Okay. So I'm going to do a few more here and I feel free to modify these to suit you. So it could be the hands on the sides of the chair, hinging forward, pressing into the heels, up you come. Bending the knees, hinging at the hip crease just a little bit forward. Then I want you to think of shifting your weight into your heels and sticking your bum back towards the back of your chair. Yeah. Okay. So let's do 3 more. And I'm going to give you some other options as we move here. So the other option would be to have your arms out in front of you. Up you go. Bending the knees, hinging, sticking the bum back. Land your airplane. Yeah. So the other option could be the hands on the chair here. Rocking. And sometimes if people have had an injury, bend, hinge. Sometimes people need a little momentum. So I have also worked with people who will do a little rocking. I want you to think though, as you rock forward, you're pressing down into the heels. So that's a nice way to start practicing getting some of that strength in the legs. It's just to try to get almost out of the chair, sit back down. Could even have your hands on the sides. Good. So we're really using those big, strong quadricep muscles here to get out of a chair. Very good. All right. Wonderful. So the last part of our practice today, I wanted to just talk about standing. So if this is something that your balance is compromised or standing is just not for you today, you could end here maybe come back in 5 minutes from meditation. But if you'd like to try this, one thing I would encourage is once you're up out of your chair, you can use your chair as a little balance tool. Or for those of you who maybe have a walker or an aid that you're using, you could have the chair behind you and you could have your walker with the brakes on in front of you. You could even do this at a countertop. But really make sure that you are setting yourself up for success when you work with balance, meaning you've got something to hold on to. Maybe you have something to sit down in. You're not just in the room and a little vulnerable here. Okay, so I'm going to move the chair out of the way so you can see me, but I really want you to choose a way that you have maybe your walker or your chair or something to hold on to just in case you need to have that little touchstone. Okay, all right. So the first thing we did today already for your balance was the footwork we did, which sometimes some of my students, we do it standing. But for today, we've done it seated. That's a little bit of a more gentle practice for the feet. And now I'm just going to talk a little bit about how finding good posture and then working with some balance practices, some really simple things you can try this week. So one thing I'm going to talk about a bit is some props. You don't need this prop. You can use a pillow, like maybe a little pillow, a towel, and you don't have to do this today in class. This is going to be up after the live class, so maybe you come back to this with a tool that you'd like to try. So I just want to talk about posture a little bit. And so how this can work for our posture is by placing it in between the thighs. Now, I always say gentle effort. So when I say squeezing the block, maybe not 100%, maybe it's a 50% effort. So if I place this block, could be this way, could be this way, depending on the length of your leg. So for me, this works just fine. But if it's hitting the inner groin or hitting the inner knee, then you could turn it this way. If you didn't have anything like that, you could use just a folded towel, something like, or a pillow, and just place it in the inner thighs. Okay, the reason that we're using something here, okay, is that when we gently squeeze, these are called your adductor muscles, they feed into the deep core line in your body. They're going to help bring your spine into a nice neutral position. When I talk about posture, I always remind people that balance and posture go together. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today because I find it's a really helpful foundation to work with. So couple things happen with posture. One thing that's very common is that rounded forward position, or the head starts taking you for a walk. Okay, so when that's happening, as soon as your shoulders come forward and your head comes forward, your pelvis tucks under. So this is really hard on the back, kind of lose the curve in your spine, and it can cause a lot of head, neck, shoulder issues, and also for balance, not so great. The reason your pelvis is tucked under is to keep you from falling over. Because if your upper body goes forward and your pelvis was here, you would topple forward. So your pelvis is it will compensate for what's going on in the upper body. So the other thing that I see with posture, so I either see a little bit of that sort of kyphosis, where you have the rounded upper backs, and then the pelvis will tuck under. And this again can cause a lot of back problems as well as balance and posture. Then I see the opposite of that, which is sometimes just an overcorrection to posture, which is this kind of chest out, shoulders back, and now I've got this big sway. It's hard to see. I've got a mic pack on here, but my pelvis is tilting forward. I've got a sway back. This isn't great either. Now my pelvis is too tilted forward. I can feel my lower back doesn't feel great in this position, and no core muscles are working right now. So if I use a block or a blanket, I'll do both so that you can see both work. Okay, I'm going to over-exaggerate now. I'm going to over-exaggerate that tilted pelvis. Okay, if I take the block and I place it in the inner thighs, okay, I'm going to bend my knees. Now, as I straighten my knees, I'm going to start squeezing this block gently. I want you to notice what happens. Here's my back of my pelvis, my tailbone. As I straighten the legs and gently squeeze the block, my pelvis is in neutral. Okay? Once the pelvis is in neutral, then we can address the upper body posture. Sometimes it's hard to know what neutral is. And so this is going to take the guesswork out of that. If you do squeeze this and it causes you any discomfort, then get rid of it for now. Okay, so let's just try that again. So take whatever you've got. Could be a pillow, could be a blanket, could be a towel. And place it in between the thighs. Bend your knees a bit, sink into your feet. I want you to really think of, maybe if you don't have shoes on, you can lift your toes, spread out the toes and place them on the floor. Okay, so when you're ready, you're going to straighten the legs and very gently hug with the inner thighs, whatever you're holding between your thighs. Your pelvis is in your neutral position, slightly different for each body. So neutral pelvis is kind of like a bowl. It's not tilting forward, it's not tucking back, it's just sitting. Okay, then I can address my upper body. So rolling the shoulders up, gently back, gently down, elbows close, palms up. There we are. That's it. So then if I bring my arms to my side body here, think of rooting down through the heels. So think of the heels pressing down, string at the back part of the crown of the head, pulling you up to the sky. Very good. Wonderful. So in this position here, I want you to imagine if that string, it's not at the center of the head, it's maybe a little bit more at the back, and it's pulling you up to the ceiling. So the back of the neck is long. I want you to imagine, okay, make sure you've got something close by that you can hold on to if you need it, that string is just going to pull you forward so that your body weight is a little bit on the front of the feet, on the ball of the feet a little bit. The heels aren't going to lift. You're just shifting your weight a little forward. Then see how it feels to come back to your center. There's my center. And then I'm going to shift my weight a little bit back. This is where it's really important to have something nearby just in case. So I'm going to shift my weight a little bit onto my heels, not too far, and come back to center. So that's what we use as a way to center your gravity. I'm going to show you from the side. You can do it with me one more time. So I'm going to bend the knees, sink into my feet, spread out the toes. Gently start to straighten the legs, gently hugging whatever you've got between your thighs. It's just activating that deep core line in the body. Shoulders roll up, back and down. Crown of the head is long, or the neck is long. Think of the string on the crown of the head pulling you forward. It could be a baby millimeter. Come back to your center. And then how does it feel to shift your weight a little bit onto the heels? What you might notice is that as you shift your weight into your heels, your legs start gripping that block or that blanket without your intentional movement. That's because these inner thigh muscles, your deep core, keeps you from falling over. Okay, good. It's wonderful. So we'll just see if this is comfortable. You can keep it here. Let's just do a little side twist. And these twists are also really great for balance. So in our standing position, could be the hands just on the hips if that's more comfortable for you and your shoulder. You can take a big breath. And I'm going to turn. Inhale to center. Exhale to turn. Inhale to center. Exhale to turn. Only as far as your body goes comfortably. That's it. Good. Wonderful. And as you come back to center, your arms can come to your sides. I'm going to remove the blanket or whatever you've got. Yeah, shake out your feet. Okay. So the last thing I'd like to address before we come down to do a seated relaxation is strengthening the muscles in the front of the foot, in the back of the foot, and running up the leg for balance. So this is something that is really great to have something like your countertop, your walker, something nearby that you can hold on to. Okay, so pretend I've got something in front of me, or I'll do it to the side here. So all we're going to do is same idea. You're not holding the block though this time, but you're just going to slowly shift your weight forward and see if you can lift your heels and down. Now, as I shift my weight into my heels, I like to hinge a little at my hip joint, and the upper body comes forward to counter so you don't feel like you're going to fall over. So I'm basically going from lifting the heels to lifting the toes. And especially in the back part of this, when you're lifting the toes, it's really helpful to maybe hold on to something. I find this really challenging without having something nearby. So just try that a couple more times. And then we'll add on to this next time. So when we lift the heels, we start to strengthen the calf, the arches of the feet, all the muscles that feed up into the back body. Pretty important for balance. When I shift my weight back and lift the toes, this is really important because these muscles in here feed into our balance as well. And they strengthen the foot so that when we're walking, we don't drag our feet and trip on our own feet. So the other thing that I get people to do is sometimes walk on their heels for that. Could be holding onto the countertop and just kind of moving sideways if you like. But that's a nice practice too. Okay, last thing. I'm going to widen my feet a little bit. A little wider than my normal stance. Something else that commonly comes up for people is when I see someone who's in a state of unbalance, our tendency is to just tighten up, and that doesn't really help. So what I want you to think about is think of a gymnast, think of a tightrope walker, think of a surfer, skateboarder, okay? All of them, anything that requires balance, you will notice in a state of unbalance that the first thing they do is bend their knees. It's as if we're sinking our gravity down into the feet. So I'm going to encourage you to bend your knees, sink into your feet like a surfer. It could be even a half a millimeter. Okay, tiny little shift. So there's a little bend in the knees. I'm sinking into my feet. And then I'm just going to play with shifting my weight to one leg, center, to the other leg. Okay, so if you're like, oh, I can, maybe you have your chair in front of you, you might even let that opposite leg lift up off the floor for a brief moment. It might lift off the floor. It could be holding on to something in front of you. Bend the knees, shift the weight, and maybe the foot lifts. And if it doesn't, it could be just the heel that lifts. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm going to do one more. There we go. Very good. Wonderful. And then I'm going to come back to center. I'm going to shake out my feet. Very good. All right, so I'm going to come back around to the front of my chair. And we're going to just do a little short relaxation before we finish today. So getting really comfortable in your chair. Could be putting a pillow at your back. Could be sitting all the way back in your chair. You don't have to sit up tall now. You can really just relax in your chair. If you've got a lazy boy nearby, you want to recline your feet, you could. You could get as comfortable as you can. Okay? So I'm going to encourage you to sit back in your seat, get as comfortable as you can. We're going to try those sigh breaths with the shoulder shrug. Good. Two more. Last one. Good. And you might let your back body really rest into the chair behind you. You might close your eyes. There's a couple mudras that you might want to try. One is just hands on your thighs, palms up, index and thumb touching. It's the chin mudra. Something else that's quite nice is just one palm or one hand, other hand on top, thumbs touch, rest in your lap. It's a nice one too. Or maybe you have something that works better for you. So as you close your eyes, and if you don't want to close your eyes for whatever reason, you can just keep them sort of softly looking down at the floor here, just to kind of let the awareness sort of sink more internally. So whether they're open and cast downward or closed. Just taking a moment to really settle into your seat. Just letting the body be supported by your chair. And perhaps the feet are supported by the floor. You can imagine that your head is just floating lightly on top of your neck. And your arms are just floating loosely off your shoulders. Encouraging all the muscles of your face to soften. Maybe you can invite a little bit of space for your back teeth so that your jaw can relax. Taking a moment to notice your breath as it comes in and out, however that is for you today. Good. Noticing the temperature of the room on your skin. And noticing the sounds around you. So you might hear my voice, you might hear other things in the space you're in. I'm going to add in a little bit of sound for us in the last little bit with my Tibetan bowls. Notice your mind wander away. Just see if you can come back to the sensation of the body, resting. Taking these last few moments to thank yourself for practicing. Thank your body for all it does for you every day. Take my hands over the heart center. So I just want to thank you for joining me today and taking this opportunity to practice these subtle movements that make a big difference in our body awareness, in our posture, in our balance. So let's take the last 3 breaths together. In the nose, out the mouth. Good. Clearing the space for the rest of your day. And maybe thinking of one thing you're grateful for in this moment. So thank you for joining me live on YouTube. I've never gone live before, and so maybe I'll get better at this if there was any awkward bits. And I hope you have a wonderful day. You can always leave comments or questions below. If you have questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Or if I don't have the answer, I'll let you know that too. And thank you for being here. Namaste.